Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Bud Light. Desperate Bud Light CEO wants all beer companies to help rebrand Bud Light. They can't seem to do it on their own, but if they involve all the beer companies, not just all the brands under Anheuser-Busch, all beer manufacturers, maybe that would be enough. I don't think so. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. The CEO of Anheuser-Busch, who is the owner of the Bud Light brand, has come up with a scheme to try to diffuse the attention that they created with Dylan Mulvaney being the spokesmodel for Bud Light. Anheuser-Busch CEO Brendan Whitworth wants to replace the term domestic with American to describe U.S.-made beers like Budweiser, Michelob Ultra, and Busch Light, but all beers that are made in America, not just the brands related to Anheuser-Busch. Whitworth argues that domestic doesn't capture the pride and the spirit of American-made beers, emphasizing their connection to American workers, farmers, and causes like the military and first responders. The rebranding push is framed as a patriotic move, with Whitworth referencing American 25 times in his letter to distributors and partners. This change aligns with a broader populist revival following President Donald Trump's re-election, though Whitworth doesn't explicitly mention Trump. Some Budweiser products already use the term American, like Great American Lager, but Whitworth wants the entire industry to adopt the term. The CEO's negative reaction to using the word domestic stems from its widespread use in the industry reports, retail stores, and concession stands, which he feels underplays the beer's American roots. The timing of this announcement is linked to the Super Bowl, a major beer drinking event where Anheuser-Busch is the largest advertiser. Bud Light sales have not recovered since the Dylan Mulvaney controversy, pushing Anheuser-Busch to align more with right-leaning marketing, including partnerships with UFC and comedian Shane Gillis. Donald Trump himself, supporting his really good friend Dana White from the UFC, who made a deal with Bud Light, has defended Anheuser-Busch despite backlash from right-wing media suggesting the company deserves a second chance. But it's not clear if the broader beer industry will adopt this terminology change, though venues influenced by Anheuser-Busch may actually do it. What's suspicious about all of this, because it's actually not a terrible idea, is first of all, it's coming from Anheuser-Busch. You can't really trust those people. But secondly, why isn't this being announced with other beer manufacturers? Why couldn't they coordinate this with one or two of their major competitors? Even small brands. You know, we're all American here. Things like that. Why would you not do that? Because they're just trying to get other people to help them clean up their mess. I can't say whether or not he reached out privately and tried to speak to these companies and say, look, come on, this is good for the whole industry. It's good for the country. It supports us. It supports Anheuser-Busch, but it supports other companies. Why can't we just do this? Maybe we can even share some marketing expenses. The reason he can't do that, I mean, I don't know if he did or didn't do that, would only be if he tried to reach out and they didn't respond to him and didn't want to help him or get anywhere near the Anheuser-Busch or Bud Light brands, which for his competitors has only been hugely helpful to them. They've all captured market share since they blew themselves up at Bud Light. From the New York Post, Anheuser-Busch CEO Brendan Whitworth wants beer to be labeled American-made. I don't like the word domestic, he says. And from CNN Business, Anheuser-Busch CEO wants to ditch domestic for American. And from The Street, which used to do everything they could to try to defend Bud Light, they say this now: Bud Light makes desperate move to win back customers after boycott. And I certainly can't tell you that this has a lot to do with it. I don't exactly know what this is, but this came out all the way back in 2022 from Fox Business, from CIA to beer, Brendan Whitworth's path to CEO of Anheuser-Busch. The former Marine applied to Harvard just before the deadline. So the CEO of Anheuser-Busch has a history with the CIA. Exactly what that means, I can't say, but their behavior has been a little bit strange. There's absolutely no reason or excuse that any kind of company by this point wouldn't have just come out and completely apologized, gone completely in the opposite direction, to show their customers and their independent distributors that they know they made a mistake, they'll never do it again, they were trying to push an agenda. They've not come out and done this, even though the cost of something like that is very, very low. And the benefit to them would be tremendous. They actually owe it to their customers and their distributors to do that. They'll do anything else other than that. Anheuser-Busch is encouraging its distributors and partners to replace the term domestic with American when marketing beer, arguing that the term better reflects the industry's identity. In a Wednesday letter titled, quote, "A Call for American Beers," CEO Brendan Whitworth expressed his dissatisfaction with the long-standing use of domestic to describe American-made beer, saying it shows up on bar menus, at beer stands, in grocery aisles, and is used by syndicated data providers too frequently. Whitworth starts his letter with 6 words, quote, "I don't like the word domestic. I'm asking the Anheuser-Busch team and our wholesalers to make the change. Change the bar menus, change the venue boards, change the signs, change their reports, change the jargon, and insist upon American. I hope other American brewers and wholesalers will join us," he also wrote. I don't say I dislike this idea. I generally think the idea is pretty compelling. It's worth a shot. And yes, there is a patriotic, nationalistic feel to the country now because people do support Trump. They're excited about what he's doing, unless, of course, they don't like Trump or what he's actually doing. But conceptually, something that helps the industry get the attention of the American public, that's not a bad thing. But I don't understand how you could do something like this absent from the rest of your industry. Also, if you're a wholesaler or a retailer, they're talking about changing signs, that's expensive. We might say, hey, what's the big deal with changing one sign? Well, it's not just one sign. If you think about a retail location, you think about a bar or a restaurant or something, there's a lot of signs, and some of them are expensive signs, some of them are inexpensive signs. But, if you're going to have a whole program, you've got to kind of discuss this with all those people and not just put it in a letter and say, I hope you guys all do this. Like, where's the money going to come from to replace all those signs? Do you have any kind of logos you want us to use specifically to accomplish this? Do you have examples of this? By the way, like the Dylan Mulvaney promotion, have you done any tests with this? Like, you want us to just go to all the expense and trouble and distraction of creating all of this new branding? Have you done a test or two to show that this is actually good and this sells more beer, creates more brand loyalty, gets us more beer sales as opposed to beer that's not made domestically, non-American beer? It doesn't seem like they have any of that. It's just a letter from Brendan saying, hey, you guys need to spend a lot more time and money working on my idea and maybe it'll help all of us. Okay, but you can't coordinate with anyone else to do this. And to my research on this, I haven't seen them providing logos and instructions even on how to go forward with it. Which, if you're doing marketing and you're doing rebranding, you want to know what the visual representations are supposed to be. Even if they're all good, it's not going to be effective if they're not all consistent. Continuity for a brand is important, and it's like a top-down thing. You get it from the top, and you get it down to everybody at the lower level, so everyone's working with the same visual representations. Common and consistent representations creates meaning. Whitworth is also calling on marketing and research firms in the industry like Circana and Nielsen to do this as well. While the word is not, quote, necessarily an incorrect adjective to use, he said, it just doesn't fully capture the spirit and passion that's intrinsic to the American beer industry and its brands. It also falls short of capturing the pride we should all take in products made right here in this great country, Whitworth continued. The move comes amid a patriotic push from the White House. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on his first day in office to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which was pretty awesome. Whitworth did not mention Trump's executive order in his letter. Whitworth, who served in the Marines before joining the CIA, was named after Anheuser-Busch chief executive. Join the CIA? Oh, that's no big deal. We see that all the time. I never see that. I see people who are in executive roles who have a military history, and you can kind of tell by the way they organize themselves sometimes, amazing and great people. It's rare to see CIA and executive together. It doesn't necessarily mean that the CIA is involved with American brands and rebranding American brands in ways that we would not want, but it doesn't mean that they're not. Whitworth was named as Anheuser-Busch's chief executive in July 2021, and led the company through challenges associated with its controversial 2023 Bud Light marketing campaign featuring transgender influencer superstar Dylan Mulvaney. What a mess! Which sparked backlash and a significant boycott by consumers and public figures. Whitworth tried moving beyond the controversy by launching a slew of patriotic or humorous marketing campaigns focused on the company's broader role in American culture. None of that actually worked. Early on in those ads, he also highlighted the workers responsible for making the company's beer and its contributions to the economy and communities. It was kind of shameless. They were showing people working in warehouses and kind of implying like, look, don't you want to continue to buy our products even though we insulted you and refused to apologize? Because look at these people, they might get laid off. And a lot of people did get laid off, especially at the independent distributor level. Somehow at Anheuser-Busch, they managed to avoid massive layoffs. They laid off a lot of administrative people, but not a lot of warehouse workers, at least not that I've seen. Not a lot of the people that actually make the beer, even though the Bud Light brand is down significantly. Corporations get away with doing things like that sometimes by not hiring new people and then losing people over time, over attrition as you don't hire new people. Sometimes reducing people's hours, sometimes buying out people into retirement, things like that. There's ways of hiding those numbers. Sometimes they would have a layoff, but not even announce it, but maybe a smaller layoff or have it done in smaller stages. It is hard to understand, though, how they lost so much volume, and they did lose a lot of volume in their package versions of bottles and cans, as well as on taps. Horrendous losses on taps, where once you lose that tap in a bar or restaurant, you're going to sell a lot less product, and that happened to them throughout the country. But they have managed to avoid talking about large layoffs when it comes to the manufacturing side. In his Wednesday letter, Whitworth underscored that American beers should better advertise that the product is made by American hands. Quote, they're brewed by American workers who receive American wages. They rely on American farmers and on American raw material suppliers. They support American causes like the military and first responders, he said. They pay American taxes, and they exist because of decades of capital investment made in hundreds of local communities right here across this great country. That's a lot of using the word American. We get it, American. Whitworth said that 99% of the beers that Anheuser-Busch sells in the U.S. are made in the country. Additionally, 99% of the ingredients the company uses come from American farmers. Quote, together, let's leave domestic in the rearview mirrors of those good old American pickup trucks. Let's all take more pride in our American beers, Whitworth said in a letter. That does sound a little bit desperate. I don't know why he couldn't have at least made some kind of arrangement or deal to coordinate this with some other industry association. The way they're trying to pass it off, if it would have come from even a small beer association. They could have contributed money to promote that. They could have used shared advertising dollars. Either he tried and they got rejected by everyone he tried it with, so he figures at least they can push this through their distributor network and associate it with their brands, which is a significant amount of market share. It's enough to at least dilute some of the negativity associated with Dylan Mulvaney and Bud Light, but it's still not going to fix the brands. In a quick review of his CIA background, maybe we'll get some additional insight from Fox Business. From CIA to beer, Brendan Whitworth's path to CEO of Anheuser-Busch. Years before he became CEO of one of the most well-known beer companies in the United States, Brendan Whitworth would spend time late into the night studying for business school while stationed in Baghdad, Iraq. It was the only time that he had to prepare for the graduate management admissions test in between his duties at the Central Intelligence Agency. After a year of work, Whitworth had to sit for the test, but had few options in the Middle East. So with very little time on his hands, he flew straight to Washington, D.C., sat for the exam, and submitted the results from his cousin's house 29 minutes before the Harvard Business School application was due. Quote, I don't know if I put my best foot forward, Whitworth laughed as he spoke with Fox News Digital. At the time, Whitworth was dedicated to serving the country, first as a first lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps, and then as an operations officer for the CIA's Counterterrorism Center. 4 years into his work at the agency, his older sister Kelty pushed him to apply for business school. Well, while she appreciated what I'd been doing, she, as any protective sibling would be, was constantly saying, quote, okay, you've done 8 years now. What do you think about prioritizing yourself? Adding that she had a strong, well-grounded opinion in his life. I can't tell you if Brendan Whitworth, CEO of Anheuser-Busch, is still working with the CIA. I don't get that kind of inside information. And if I did, I probably wouldn't put it on a YouTube video. But I will say his scheme to try to get all beers to say that they're American-made as a way to promote a brand that goes above the individual brands of the beers, it's not a terrible idea. It's just something is incredibly suspicious about it because he didn't go to other companies first. He didn't announce it with other companies. He didn't announce it with industry analysts, any of the sales data companies. He's just told his distributors that he wants to push it out through his independent distribution network without instructions for how they're supposed to do it. Maybe the instructions will come later. Maybe logos will come later. Maybe a plan will actually come later. If all of that is unprepared, then why even send a letter? Does not really make any sense. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you. And if you'd like to support the channel and help me make even more videos, become a paid member of the channel today.